Is Russell Westbrook still a superstar? Let's get into this. Ever since getting drafted by the OKC Thunder and playing with Kevin Durant and James Harden, Russell Westbrook has been known for being an absolute superstar in this league. Westbrook has always been extremely hardworking and just getting the job done. But when Kevin Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors in the summer of 2016, Russell Westbrook elevated his game with the Thunder to a level we've never seen before. That season was a revenge tour for Russell Westbrook because he was really hurt when Kevin Durant left the Thunder without telling him. That season in 2017, Russell Westbrook was as motivated as he ever was. The team around Westbrook wasn't great, but it was good enough for them to make the playoffs that season. But Westbrook made sure that his team was going to make the playoffs that year. That season was so legendary for Westbrook. He was the second player behind Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for an entire season. The Thunder didn't go anywhere that season or even the next season, but Westbrook was so beloved by the Thunder fans and the casual NBA fans because he was seen as being very loyal and really hardworking. And especially compared to his teammate Kevin Durant, who left and was not loyal whatsoever, Thunder fans and NBA fans in general really liked Russell Westbrook at that time. But eventually the Thunder got more talent like Paul George on that roster, and it was seen at the time that Russell Westbrook and Paul George could compete to win an NBA championship. But even with Paul George, Russell Westbrook wasn't able to win an NBA championship or really even get close, to be honest. And soon after, some fans started to think that Russell Westbrook was only a stat patter and only cared about his numbers more than he did care about winning. And at the time when Kevin Durant left, it was reported that one of the biggest reasons why he left was he didn't think he could win with Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook at this time was kind of proving his point by putting up great numbers but not really winning as much as he should. But eventually the Thunder realized they weren't going to win with Westbrook and Paul George, so they ended up trading Paul George to the Clippers that season, and they gave the option to Westbrook to choose where he wanted to go because he was so loyal to them, and it was the right thing to do. And at that time, Westbrook's value was pretty low because he has such a big contract. He was still putting up great numbers, but the thought around the league was you can't really win with him. But lucky for the Thunder and also Westbrook, the Thunder ended up trading Westbrook to the Rockets, and now Westbrook could team up with his buddy from OKC, James Harden, and now the test was really on to see if Westbrook could be a winning player. There was a question though, because James Harden and Russell Westbrook both needed the ball in their hands to succeed, and it was a big question at the time if that offense could work out with those two. Similar to when Chris Paul played with James Harden and they staggered their minutes and both ISO'd individually, the same thing happened with Westbrook and Harden where they staggered their minutes and they both ISO'd. But pretty similar to the situation with Harden and Chris Paul, it worked out at first, but eventually it just didn't work out really. The two players couldn't play together. The Rockets really tried to make it work. They went to a complete small ball lineup where they had literally all shooters around Westbrook and Harden, but it just never worked out in the end. Westbrook again put up great numbers, averaging almost a triple-double, very close to it, but the numbers didn't really matter at that point. All NBA fans knew he could put up numbers. The real question was, could he win? And in Houston, he wasn't winning again, so it wasn't a good look for him, and his trade value was getting lower and lower. And just the overall perception of Westbrook was getting worse and worse by the typical NBA fan and analyst as well. Westbrook was in a pretty similar situation to Chris Paul at that time, but the difference is Chris Paul went to the Thunder and proved his value by helping the younger kids play well and just being a good leader, and also on top of it proving that he could still ball in this league. But the difference between Westbrook is Westbrook can absolutely ball, put up great numbers, but I'm not so sure if he makes the players around him better anymore like he used to. The big downfall for Westbrook was when Westbrook was on the Thunder with Paul George, and they were in that playoff series against Damian Lillard, and Damian Lillard beat Westbrook individually and also as a team. But the big reason why that happened was because of Westbrook could not shoot. It was really apparent, and still to this day he has a big issue with shooting. I think Westbrook's biggest issue, and the reason why I don't necessarily think he's a superstar anymore, is just because his shooting is not there. His shooting was never great throughout his whole career, but for whatever reason, especially recently, it got significantly worse, and it's become a really big issue. Even this season on the Wizards, he's putting up amazing numbers. He's almost averaging a triple-double again. It's not about the numbers with Westbrook, it's just about winning. And also the Wizards are not a great roster to Westbrook's credit, but they're just not having a good season whatsoever. They had higher expectations and they're underperforming significantly. And I'm not saying that's all Westbrook's fault, but when Westbrook has the reputation that he does for being a great player but just not winning. It's just not a good look for Westbrook. Some may argue that Westbrook lost his athleticism, or at least some of his athleticism, and that's the reason why there's been a drop off, but I don't really think that's true because he's still very athletic. It's just the main reason is his 3-point shooting. His mid-range shooting is pretty good, but his 3-point shooting is really bad. And I'm not saying that Westbrook needs to get his 3-point percentage up to a crazy like 40% or something, but if he could just be reasonable from the 3-point line and maybe not take as many threes as he does, I think he could be more of an effective player and more of a winning player. Because numbers are one thing, a pretty decent player could put up great numbers on a bad team and on a team that's not winning, but if you could put up great numbers and win, that's where you really differentiate a star from a superstar. And for that reason alone, I really don't think Westbrook's a superstar anymore. I still do think he's a star. He's putting up superstar numbers, but he's just not winning. I can't say he's a superstar. But growing up, Russell Westbrook was one of my favorite players just due to the fact that he worked so hard, he was extremely loyal, and there's not too many other things you want out of a superstar player like that. Loyalty and working extremely hard in the gym are two things that will win over a fan base, and Westbrook embodied those two significantly. Westbrook worked harder than probably any other player in the NBA, and I guarantee Westbrook's still working extremely hard now in Washington, but for whatever reason he can't get that 3-pointer under wraps. But if he does do that, I think he could revive his career. But at this point, he's not doing it, so his path isn't on the greatest right now. So at this point, I really can't say that Westbrook's a superstar at the moment. He is an all-star, obviously, but he's not a superstar. I do think he has the talent to be back on that superstar level, but he just has to figure out that 3-pointer and also have to figure out how to win. But until Russell Westbrook figures out how to win again, he's always going to have that same reputation of players thinking he doesn't necessarily want to win, he just wants his stats to be great. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Westbrook is a superstar because his numbers are showing that he is, or do you agree with me and think he's not a superstar although his numbers are crazy good? But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And until the next time, peace out, guys.